Guys, welcome back. And today I'm going to be reviewing How to Train Your Dragon and How to Train Your Dragon 2 How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World came out last Friday, and this isn't a re-review series leading up to it because it's already out. But I'm going to be seeing it on Thursday. I haven't seen it yet, so please don't spoil it in the comments. If you have seen it, be courteous. But I'm going to be rewatching these two movies, and I rewatched How to Train Your Dragon today. I'm filming this on Tuesday night, so I'll probably be posting this on Wednesday, and I'll be watching How to Train Your Dragon 2 again tomorrow. So I'll probably be posting that review on either early on Thursday or later on Wednesday. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna get into this movie. So I grew up with the Cressida Cowell books. I've read all 12. I've seen some of the cartoons. I grew up with all these things, and this movie is still really good. I think it's the best one. I haven't seen the third one yet, obviously, but I'm not a huge fan of 2, but I love 1. The score is great. You can hear it playing in the background. The score is really, honestly, like, mesmerizing and beautiful in this movie. It's really funny. I forgot how funny this movie was. Like, within the first 5 minutes, I was laughing consistently. Because I forgot about how funny some of the jokes are. Like, Hiccup being like, I wanted to... He's, like, trying to kind of, like, make fun of his father. And he's like, oh, I wanted a big buff son with a ton of guts and a little bit of glory on the side. This is a talking fish bone or something. It's like, it's really funny. And then he's like, I think they need more like me. And then Gobber's like, oh, they always need the toothpicks or something. And then his father's like, I need all the food so that we can feed the whole village. And then he's like, I think the village could do with a little less feeding, if you know what I mean. This movie's so funny. And some of the quotes I still use to this day, like, thank you for nothing, you useless reptile. Yeah, this movie's really funny. And I think it has some really nice themes in it as well. There's some things that we can talk about that it has issues. It has issues, obviously. It's obviously taken some inspiration from the Cressida Cowell book, but nothing is really the same, like, except for the names of the characters. Like, in the book, Fishlegs was just like Hiccup. He was, like, the wimpy, scrawny guy. But in this movie, he's, like, the fat guy. And he's, like, the expert on dragons. But in the book, he, like, didn't know anything. He was, like, a wimp. And, he wasn't dumb, but he was just, like, a wimp, and he was scrawny like Hiccup. And he was, like, Hiccup's best friend. But in this movie, he's just kind of another background character. Snotlout in the book is more of a bully, but in this movie he's like, and they try to make him seem more like a bully in the animated show episodes, like Riders of Berk and stuff. But like, in the Riders of Berk show and stuff, they try to make him seem more like a bully, but it feels weird because in this movie he's not really a bully. He's just trying to impress Aster and be like the cool guy. He's kind of like the Flash Thompson character, where he kind of like tries to act like a bully. Like Flash Thompson from Spider-Man Homecoming, where he's like tries to act like a bully, but he's more of just a nerd as well. But he's just trying to be cool, like showing off his cars and stuff. Like, obviously there's not cars in this world, but you know what I mean. So yeah, this is definitely probably one of the best DreamWorks films. I love Rise of the Guardians, and I love the Kung Fu Panda series, and I love this series, for the most part. So, like, they've had a rough past few years. Like, they had Home. Home was terrible. So they've had a few missteps along the way, but the earlier ones were definitely the best. I haven't watched Megamind in a while, but I think I remember it being pretty funny. But yeah, I really like this movie a lot. There's some things you can pick out, like, there are things in this movie that could be cheesy or cliche, and some of them show through, but a lot of them just kind of work for this message. Like, Hiccup being like, when I looked into Toothless's eyes, I saw myself, and that would be cheesy, but it kind of works with the message and themes and concepts of this film, which I like a lot. It fits with that, and Hiccup, it has this sense of self-awareness, where Hiccup is constantly commenting, making snarky comments, and commenting on the scenarios that he's in. Jay Baruchel gives a great vocal performance that just sounds great, and he just comments always on, like, his current situations, which gives it this little bit of self-awareness. I also love this movie has a breakneck pace. I like the people might not like this sort of paced movie where it like goes through like montages through the character learning things. Like it montages through different dragon lessons and him like working together with Toothless or learning how to fly with Toothless. Like it goes back and forth between that, and some people might not like that sort of film, but I like that a lot. It makes the movie not feel long, which is a problem that I have with 2, which we'll get into in my How to Train Your Dragon 2 review, which is that one feels like really like a drag at most parts. Like maybe I'll feel different when I rewatch it, but this one it goes at a breakneck pace, and I love it. And it doesn't feel long. Like I don't know. I think it's like an hour and a half, but it doesn't feel like it goes by really fast, and I really like that. It has a breakneck pace, and it doesn't feel like it drags out. Unlike 2, where I feel like it just includes a lot of stuff to pad out the runtime. But this one has a great breakneck pace, which I love a lot. It really has great editing too. Like Gobber's like, remember, a dragon will always go for the kill. And then it cuts to Hiccup, and he's like, but why didn't you? I like that sort of editing where like cuts from a character saying something to a different scenario where a character is still like contemplating the same thing. Maybe he was saying that in a different context. That's kind of weird. Like, what was he thinking to himself? Like, that's clearly like the next day or something, or late. Maybe it's later in the day, but I don't know. That's just kind of weird how he's just still thinking about it. I don't know. There are things you can also pick at. Like, there's something I didn't think about, which kind of bothers me. Is like Stoic goes off on his adventure and then he comes back, and then Gobber's like, he just has a way with the beasts. But like saying he has a way with them implies that he doesn't kill them. But then when Stoic sees him in the final test or task or whatever you want to call it, he seems shocked that he doesn't kill them. Which I guess you could say, because he didn't see any of the other matches before that, so I guess you could say that makes sense. But it just feels like the Vikings, like, obviously the main parallel is that Hiccup can't kill dragons, and he dedicates his time to helping Toothless. It's like he can't kill Toothless, and there's kind of like a running theme of that throughout the movie, which is like think about the other things other than one thing. Like Stoic is like, we have to feed the town and stuff, and at the same time the dragons, like Hiccup feels like he wants to be the person his father wants him to be, but then he realizes that he can't be the person that his father wants him to be. So then he dedicates his time to fixing a mistake he did, which I think is really beautiful in a way, which is the kind of main message of the film is people making mistakes and then righting them, but at the same time coming with a cost. And that's what happens in this film, where Hiccup shoots down the Night Fury, no one believes him, and then when he's faced with the choice of killing Toothless, he can't do it, and then he dedicates the rest of his time to fixing that mistake fully by trying to build a little like tail thing so that he can fly. And in the holiday special, which a lot of people say they don't like, I actually like it. Or I don't know if a lot of people do, but I like it. And it ties back to that where Hiccup makes a tail so that Toothless can fly on his own, but he doesn't want to. He wants to fly with Hiccup, which I think is really beautiful. And I think ties back into that, which is like Hiccup made a mistake. He dedicates the rest of the film to fixing that mistake, but then the mistake still can't go on without him being there for Toothless and flying with him, which I think is beautiful. And then at the same time, Stoic tells, like, at the end, he's like, okay, you can do whatever you want, but don't hurt Toothless. And Stoic is like, that's what you care about the dragon? What about all the people who you hurt? And then Stoic releases the Dread Death, and he doesn't think about, like, what damage that could cause. All he cares about is, like, killing all the dragons or whatever. And in a way, Stoic and the dragons have the same agenda. Stoic needs the food to feed his people, but the dragons also need it to please their peers, their queen. And the same thing with Hiccup, and that's kind of the same thing. That's another parallel between Hiccup and Toothless, which is why they're such a great pair. Which is Hiccup wants to please his father, and Toothless wants to please the queen, and the dragons want to please their queen. And I think that's a really interesting idea, and I think it's executed really interestingly. Um, um, and that's another parallel, or another part of the film, which is like people make mistakes and writing them, which is like, and that ties back into it. And Hiccup comments on it in How to Train Your Dragon 2. He says like, oh, I shot him down and wrecked his tail, so he saved me, but at the same time, I lost my leg. And Stoic says, oh my gosh, this is all my fault. He didn't think, all he cared about was destroying the dragons. He didn't think about the consequences. He didn't think about, if the Red Death had gotten out and destroyed Burke. If more people had been hurt. Which is tying back into what he said about to Hiccup, which is, you just care about the dragon, why don't you think about other people? And about what damage could have been done, and then he realizes, oh my god, I'm doing the same thing. And I think that's really interesting. It has some really interesting themes, which are very lightly touched on, but are still very interesting. What was I gonna say? There's some, like, once again, there's some things that you could say are cliche about it, like, they have to have the big monster at the end, the big red death monster, and I mean, as far as those go, it's pretty epic. It's got a million eyes, and, like, it's got, like, a really gross bottom jaw. It's just a gross old dragon. It's pretty creepy, pretty crazy creature. So, yeah, like, it's, as far as those go, it works, and yeah, there's a lot of things that you could say are cliche, but they work in the context. Like I said, like, Toothless, or Hiccup being like, when I looked into his eyes, I saw myself. Like, there are things like that that could be cliche, like, even some humor at the beginning where Hiccup, like, turns around and this flaming thing falls down and, like, destroys a million things, and people are like, ah, boom, 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 and Hiccup's like, ooh, ooh. And, like, there's that sort of humor which could have been cliche and not work, but it works in the context of the film, which is, like, Hiccup is causing all these things, and everyone's like, nothing on Burke happens without Hiccup being involved, So, it works in the context of the film, and that's what I like. The film has that sense of self-awareness with Hiccup commenting on how absurd his scenarios are. And there's some things that I think are a little weird, like when he wants to show Astrid won't listen to him, so he has to show her the beauty of flying with Toothless, and he thinks that Toothless is just doing it to annoy her, but then suddenly he's just doing it to actually get her to apologize. And then I think he was gonna do it anyway, and then they, like, land, and there's the sunset, and it's beautiful. And then it just feels like they'd had to shoehorn in them finding the nest. And that's another kind of easy to nitpick thing which is like how Toothless and all the dragons have, like, a telekinetic connection with the queen. That's a little bit of, like, a plot device. It's pretty simple. Which is something I like, again, about the film, which is, other than the Red Death, it doesn't have a villain, and that's something that I like, is, like, you can have movies like Batman vs. Superman, I'm using that as an example, where you have Lex Luthor, okay, he's the villain, but then he makes a monster. The monster isn't the villain, that's just a force for the heroes to fight, that isn't necessarily malevolent. And, well, it is malevolent. But, like, with this film, there's not really a villain, which is really interesting, which ties back to all those themes I was talking about, which is, it's just people making mistakes. Stoic making mistakes, and you think he's the villain, you hate him for most of the movie. And, but at the same time, he's just trying to, I guess, be a good father, and I really like that. Like, it's just about people making mistakes, and then dedicating so much of their time to fixing those mistakes. And that ties back into that very beautifully, which is that there's no villain. It's just people making mistakes. And the Red Death is just kind of the culmination of all that. It's just kind of like a big monster for them to fight, which didn't really need to be in the film, to be honest. Like I say, that's the one kind of nitpick I have, which is like that, and then like Stoic and people like just accepting Hiccup for just taming them and not like just killing them. That, and then how they just needed to have like a big monster fight at the end. But you get some nice moments for the rest of the Dragon Gang. I'm gonna call them that, the Dragon Gang, to shine. You have Snotlout hammering the eyes on the dragon. So you have some fun moments like that. Another quote that I always use is Fish Legs falling down, being like, "I'm okay." Dragon rolls over, squishes him. Not less okay. Great quotes there. It's a little weird how they try to make you think that Hiccup is like dead. Like, I don't know. They just try to make you think that he's like dead. And then, like, I don't know. It kind of works. It's a moment that kind of works. once again, with characters making mistakes and then trying to help right those mistakes. Um, so yeah, that's definitely another interesting part of the film. So I think that's most of the stuff I have to talk about with How to Train Your Dragon. I really love this film. I recommend you check it out. Even if you're not a fan of the books, once again, it doesn't really tie into the books, and it just takes loose inspiration from the books. Um, but yeah, I love How to Train Your Dragon. I think it's probably the best, and I think it will remain the best even after I see the third one. Be tuning in tomorrow or later today, whenever I'm posting this. I don't know when I'm posting this. I'm filming it on Tuesday night. Um, I can't wait for How to Train Your Dragon 3. I can't wait to see it. And be staying tuned for my review of How to Train Your Dragon 2. Not a big fan of that one, but maybe my mind will change. But for now, I love How to Train Your Dragon. I'm going to give it an A. I think it's a great family movie, a great movie for just people who aren't even really fans of the books. It's funny, it's got a ton of mature themes, which obviously for a family film are very, like, I don't know how to say it, like, safely handled. Like, they handle the themes, like, such as, like, with the Lego movie, where they represent those themes in a simple way, but you understand that the themes underneath that are much deeper than the way they're presented. Um, the concepts, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm gonna give How to Train Your Dragon an A. There's some things you can nitpick at, which I talked about, but it's just really funny, and fun and wonderful, and I'm sorry if I forgot to mention some things, and I'm sorry if I sound tired. It's just because I'm filming this kind of a little bit late at night, and I'm kind of tired. But, yeah, you guys let me know what you think of the How to Train Your Dragon film from 2010. Be staying tuned for my film, or for my review of How to Train Your Dragon 2, coming out soon. And I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.